Hey guys, how's it going? This is Greg Jones with Motorcycle and Powersports News, and welcome to another episode of Power Players. Today I'm joined by Justin Quinn. He is the product manager at DX1. Justin, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Doing great, Greg. Thanks for having us here. Excited to be part of this.
Absolutely, we're excited to dive into a little background about yourself. Obviously, what's going on at DX1 and your dealer management services, solutions, and all that great stuff. But just to start, where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Joining you guys. We got some good weather today, so that's really nice.
Yeah, right. Finally, it seems like summer's finally taken full hold here and makes for excellent riding weather and getting outside, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So, Justin, like we said, you're the product manager at DX1, but we wanted to get a little bit of background information about you. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this power sports industry to start with, and kind of what your path was to get into DX1.
Yeah, sure. Well, like a lot of people, I watch a lot of your podcasts, and a lot of your guests. It starts as a passion,
Absolutely.
and I'm particularly one of those people, and many people on our team are that way. So, yeah, my dad got me a JR50 Suzuki in '79 for my second birthday. Welded some wagon wheels on it and kind of pushed me off, and I really feel like that was a start. Like a lot of people, we rode out at the track and did some recreational riding for many years, and then right around 1990, two things really happened that kind of got this path going. First, I had a Honda Yamaha dealership right behind my intermediate school. So as I was, every day out of school, I couldn't think of a better place to be. I
Yeah.
didn't want to do homework. I didn't want to go home and do chores, but I would love sweeping up at the dealership and helping the guys out around there. So they gave me kind of a run of the place and kept me busy and loved having me around. So it was kind of an early induction to not just buying spark plugs and oil and stuff to go out to the races. And then coincidentally, my dad started announcing motorsport events and ended up being a marketing director for the events. And so he was always reaching out to dealers, selling advertising, doing dealer co-op, things like that. And he would always drag me along. So I knew a lot of these people from the races in track, and I was able to sit in on a lot of business at a very young age with owners of dealerships, hearing about the behind the scenes and whatnot. So I feel like that's, kind of my first real introduction when I felt like it being the term industry. And then
Yeah.
I was a professional racer. So, fast forward a few years, I ended up working through dealerships as a privateer, trying to get flexibility and move around. And yeah, eventually just kind of worked my way through dealerships, had an opportunity to work with some distributors. I worked directly for OEMs. So a real diverse experience in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, really, it sounds like you said, since you were 2 years old, you've been on a bike and you've kind of took that deep dive right into it from that young age and haven't looked back. So that's great. Justin, today, you mentioned that you raced, and I'm sure you still ride. What have been some of your favorite bikes that you've owned?
I was just talking with a friend about this last night. I think my favorite bike is a 1992 RM80. It's kind of where things as a racer started picking up for me. So I have some fondness, just taking a big jump. And then I think about my first year as a professional was really hard to pull everything together, and getting bikes is never an easy task as a
Sure.
privateer. And in 1996, Yamaha revolutionized the way a two-stroke 125 was made, and that bike really really helped. And so I was very fond of both those bikes.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. And then, Justin, like you said, you also got to spend a good amount of time in dealerships, and I'm sure it still carries on today in your current role. But let's talk about working in some of those dealerships, and then ultimately getting to DX1. What attracted you to working at DX1, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's funny how life works out full circle kind of stuff. During my career in dealerships around 2003 or four, I was a general manager for two dealerships in Sacramento, California. And one of the partners in that business is actually the founder for DX1. So, I had experience with that very early on in the product. I actually didn't work with the product then, but I remember working with that team. And then, I ended up, I have a friend who bought a dealership, and I went up there to get him going. And he was in a position where he had to make a DMS decision. And I revisited the topic with DX1 and kind of, analyzed that with other DMS solutions out there. We decided to go that direction. We liked some of the things it did. And I hit it off with the company. I think we'll talk probably more about this stuff later, but when you're a new dealer trying to get into a new DMS software, it can be tough. And I think our team just took onto it really easy. So conversations started, and here I am.
Yeah. And Justin, have you always been in a product manager role, or is that something that's been more current?
Yeah, that's probably more current in the traditional product manager sense. Having managed a lot of my life, it still feels like it's a lot of the same type of things in terms of just being, organized and being able to take feedback and listen to people. But it's a busy job for sure.
Yeah. So let's dive a little deeper into, what your day-to-day looks like. As a product manager, are you just responsible for one or two certain products, or is there a broader range of DX1, products that you're kind of have under your belt, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I tend to get my arms out into a lot of things with our DMS. We talk a lot about, as a product manager, it's more than just the software. DX1 is a product. Our support is a product. Our account management is a product. So, how that all translates for the dealer when they're getting that final experience, whether they're, clicking buttons or moving from screen to screen or simply need assistance. So, that's a lot of what we do is, from our side, I have another team member who we work with that, we have a lot of experience in the dealership. So we try to advocate on behalf of dealers, specifically, our role as product managers, putting ourselves in their shoes, getting their feedback. That's the most important thing. We have a large customer base, and dealers can agree on one thing, that they don't always do it the same way.
Absolutely.
And so, really talking with dealers and making sure you're understanding the use cases, what the workflows are. And I think that's what really helps our company. And, again, not being a traditional product manager, that's what they were a little bit looking for is, it's a bit harder to teach somebody with the technical aspects what's happening in the industry versus the other side. And I have a great team and great mentors and great support system on our inside. So it's been a really fun transition into this role. And again, I like working with dealers, and so it puts me right in contact with them every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I'm sure, like you said, every dealer is a little bit different. So I'm sure it's always something different for your day to day as well. That's great. So, Justin, obviously DX1 has been around a long time. Here at MPN, we're pretty familiar with you guys, and you guys certainly have, a great solution out there in the market for dealers to take advantage of. But what's been new lately at DX1, and what's kind of changed over the years in DMS software?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll start with, what's changed, because it kind of leads into what we're doing today. It's integration in data. I still remember the days of CDs showing up at a dealership, uploading a server and updating information that way, constantly leaving from my DMS to go into another system to look up parts or information that I need. And there was lots of gaps in that information at times. So, I think that's the biggest change over the years that I've seen is how the integrations and a lot of the real-time updating are really changing the way dealers do business. And, in terms of, what we're doing here, I'd like to think, we're out in the front of that. We are the DMS option for end-to-end solutions, and, end-to-end meaning typically DMS has been brick and mortar, and then the same dealership may treat their digital retailing platform as something separate. But here at DX1, and I know that was at the core philosophy from the beginning, is trying to provide a platform from dealers that takes it from beginning to the end. So I think, as we continue to work on those integrations and find ways to help dealers with that, that's kind of where we're at on the forefront. And that's really what dealers are looking for. Consumers are certainly, changed their habits through COVID, and some things are going back to normal. Some things are staying. So, we've stayed focused on that aspect, and we're an agile company. That's one of the things that drew me to DX1, both as a customer and as an employee, is we have the ability to be responsive to your business and market conditions.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important thing of, what we're doing is we're constantly evolving with your business.
All right. So Justin, we just mentioned, you know, what's been changing with DMS, and that kind of goes hand in hand with what's kind of been new at DX1 lately. So do you want to just elaborate on, what you guys have been up to in recent months or even recent years?
Yeah, well, we've had some exciting projects come out. Last year, we were in Powersports Business News and Nifty 50. So we worked on a tool, and this is a great example of being able to work with our customers as things are happening in real time, even for their business flows. That is, units were becoming really tough to get, and dealers were looking for solutions on how to continue to generate leads, advertise product they know they hope they're going to get, in order to keep the process moving and allow them to do all the things they need to do. We developed a great tool. And this goes back in that end-to-end solution. So what this coming soon tool was in DX1, when you add in a unit to your DMS inventory, what makes this end-to-end or much more integrated is that unit goes straight to your website. And if anybody sat down at a desking job and done this process and doesn't have an end-to-end solution, they know what it's like to take a unit and go to all these destinations, wherever it is they're listing these units, to constantly list them, put the details, and then once the units are sold, or bring them down. So that process we designed really complemented our end-to-end solution to allow dealers to deal with those challenges, continue to get the units up on the website they think they're going to get those leads, get those deposits, and ultimately, get satisfied customers. So that was something, we were really happy, and we got great feedback, from our dealers, and obviously it was nice to be recognized from that sense. This year, we've been continuing to listen to our customers about the opportunities they're looking for with more real-time notifications, things to kind of help them understand what's happening in their business as it's happening. Traditionally, and I remember as a parts manager, I think the easy one, dealers relate to very easily is that, when customers order parts and they head out the door, a lot of times dealers have to maintain that information in the system, make sure this stuff's picked up and whatnot. So our system does nice real-time notifications to let you know when products are arriving in real time so that you can contact your customers. Our system also sends out notifications to customers through email or SMS in real time, letting them know that their product's here, your unit's been completed for work. So things that face the customer and at the same time, internally gives direction to users within a dealership to communicate, what are their workflows? We got parts in, we need to move them to these RO, this RO is ready. So we've worked really hard this year to develop a tool, and we released it, and our dealers are loving it. We've had really high adoption, lots of great feedback. So it's been really exciting. And then, we're really focused on our e-commerce. Again, that's a really hot topic and has been now for some time. And I think dealers are still trying to understand what it means to an individual dealer. I think, so that's what we've been working on. And again, getting rid of that gap between your digital retailing platform and your brick and mortar, and just bringing them all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Justin, that certainly sounds like a number of exciting things, and new and better solutions that dealers can take advantage of, through your platform. So that's awesome. Now, again, going back to what you had said about every dealer being a little different, couldn't be more true, right? And with that comes different methodologies about how they run their dealership and what they want it to look like. And DMS, whether they have it or don't have it, is a big part of that. So what are some of those challenges of getting a dealer to number one, move to a DMS, and then number two, if they're already using a DMS, how do you help them use it to the best of their abilities?
Yeah, well, I think, going to a new DMS period, whether it's your first experience or coming from another DMS, I think the challenge is having a champion within the dealership. The reality is, if you're having this or you're considering it, you've probably recognized within your own organization, we need to improve, or we're looking for improvements. And who's looking at that improvements typically happen at a general manager up phase. So that can be a good change, but not everybody is open to change. So I think, it takes somebody within the dealership who really can have an end vision for what's the goal of, moving or selecting a DMS, and then making sure to help, the team adopt and learn. And to your point, that is really a big challenge. We all, have software we use today, whether it's, Amazon or Netflix or something like that, a subtle change, we can see it, we can feel it. And that's no
Yeah.
different for our users within our DMS. So I think, again, this champion concept is what continues to happen. We have our DMS software, and then the dealer has the way they work. And the real magic is finding a way to marry those two together. Not one, our system is not 100% the way the dealer's going to want to do it. Maybe the dealer's not working 100% the way we would like to see them doing a best practice. So it usually takes investment from the dealership to come up and say, well, we need to investigate the software, maybe take advantage of webinars, resources that are offered by the DMS, and then a commitment. Just like changing any habit. If you've used a DMS for 20 years, good or bad, it's going to be a different day when you come on with your new DMS. So I think, again, dealerships just having patience and a plan, and then somebody who can help with that transition. And, we focus on that. I mean, to that point, and this is what I really liked about DX1 as a dealer before I worked for them, there was quite an onboarding process that really tried to get to that point to understand, what are you doing as a business? Why were you here, and how can we help you? And I think that's something we try to keep a very personal touch with our dealers the best we can to make sure that we're listening to what they're saying, and ultimately try to get them off onto that golden brick road, if you can call it that.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, Justin, again, going back to, those dealers out there that don't have a DMS yet, or maybe just aren't even aware of all the capabilities that it can give them. What are some of those, top reasons that dealers say no to you guys, or say no to a DMS? What are those reasons generally?
Well, I think a lot of people feel like they have a system that works. I think obviously it depends on a lot of the size of your business, or maybe how long you've been around. And a lot of people do have systems that work. So I think the objection is, I just don't need it. But to your point, I think any of us can sit down in our businesses or anything we do, even with my role, and think, how can I be a little bit more efficient, or how can I optimize what I do? And I think that's really the key, is for us to be able to sit down and make sure the dealer understands that we know what they're doing, that there has to be some sense of security, for somebody who doesn't want to change to ultimately adopt something like that. So, it comes with patience from our side. And again, just, making sure as we start talking with new dealers that we're not just ready to sign everybody up the minute they'll sign a piece of paper. That's not a good solution for anybody. We're looking for long-term relationships, and we want to make sure it fits. So, I think that is probably one of the biggest objections we see. I know, again, I think that's probably the biggest one we hear.
Yeah. And Justin, on the other side of that coin, what's the one or two things that, dealers then hear from you guys that, that switch kind of goes off in their head, like, oh yeah, I really do need to think about this differently, or, I definitely could take advantage of, something that DX1 is offering. Is there one or two things that always kind of grabs them?
Yeah, and it's talking about their customers and their bottom line. I mean, that's the reality. The bottom line is reflective, I think, always of your customer satisfaction. So, today with our system, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of real-time things happening. So just when you look at customer satisfaction by itself, the ability to get a text message letting me know that my parts arrived 2 minutes ago. That's what our consumers are expecting today. If we go to any of our big box retailers, it's really transitioned to what our purchasing habits are, and again, how we expect to get that end result. So I think that's, one of the things I like to sit down with dealers. And even when I just simply talk about our notifications for special orders to customers, I remind dealers and have them do a quick little bit of math. And I say, well, you have your process today, which I'm sure is very manual, lots of phone calls, lots of voicemails, things like that. And ultimately, you maybe never connect with your customer. With our system, we talk about how, one, the system's working on your behalf. So normally where you had an employee you were paying to pick up a phone, spend 2 or 3 hours calling customers, again, our system's doing that in real time. So the customers aren't waiting. They're getting their parts. They're getting out the door. A lot of dealers also don't think about the follow-up side of it. So, if I say I spend an hour or two a day calling customers, but if that customer doesn't answer, do you follow up the next day? And this is where it gets in a challenge for many tasks for many dealers, is once the pile starts piling up, we're doing our best every day. So I think, when I sit down and start to explain that this is money you can recoup whether it be hourly wages, efficiency with your customers. Again, that will result in a better experience for them that will help your bottom line. You just start having them do the math backwards and say, well, how much are you paying somebody a year just to make phone calls? And that usually opens a conversation to start talking about other things that say, well, what can we do to just start cleaning up that change that's falling through the couch? I mean, ultimately, that is always a thing in dealerships. No matter how successful you are, there's a lot of working parts. And so at DX1, we've been focusing on that. When dealers do have tighter margins, when things are very competitive, are we giving you the tools to make sure that you're not letting pennies kind of roll through the cracks and into the couch? And that's, I think, ultimately, once we kind of show the dealers how that happens, and it kind of removes them from having to hire the right people or deal with staffing changes, again, DX1 becomes a bit more of a constant employee for them. And that really gets their attention.
Yeah, certainly. And Justin, you just mentioned a couple of different features and things that this DMS, offers dealers, but are there kind of a top 3 to 5, features that you see dealers, enjoying most often, features that, they say they can't live without once they get familiar with it? And then, on the flip side, what are a couple of those features that dealers should probably be taking more advantage of? Like you mentioned e-commerce a little bit ago. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I think, let's talk about the e-commerce first. Yeah, that is a really big topic, and it's really exciting. I think today, whether you're a dealer or a consumer, it's a little hard to sort out in the power sports industry what parts are actually something you're getting from the dealer and what's just part of a catalog that somebody is going to order later. So as customers have been pushing more on dealers to get more accurate information and ultimately find out what they can get today without driving down to the dealership, without picking up the phone, again, giving them that kind of digital platform they want. That's really important. So that's one of the new tools we've just worked on is now, in our system, a dealer can actually list that inventory that's in stock on their website, letting them know, yes, you can come get that today. And we've heard through our consumers and our dealers, that has been a very important, aspect of this product. And then of course, if you're looking at digital retailing platforms, just like the DMS, it gives you a lot of tools to start assisting your customers with really out getting in their business, right? As they start to purchase more products and do more things, our system can start to help them with similar products, or, you may like this also, things, again, we see in big box retailers. So that's what we're working towards. There's a lot of work to do there. And, the other things that are definitely in the top 3, and I've mentioned them because they're clear winners for us, is the amount of time you save with the end-to-end process of just managing your units. If I sell a unit and hit complete sell right now, it's off my website. We have configurations, the things you can do within the DMS to control your listings, monthly payments, promotions, all these things that dealers are dealing with. Again, within the DMS, we have a lot of that data. And so that's a really big help, especially as dealers deal with compliance, right? The manufacturers, the vendors, they're all out there looking at mapping. And so, since we're getting a lot of this information directly from the suppliers and give the dealers more control over where they need these things to meet those requirements, it really saves them a tremendous amount of time. So, I think that's the big one. Our customer notification system, again, we see dealers that are sending out, 10,000 notifications a month. And again, if you think about those all traditionally being phone calls, that's a lot of time and a lot of tied up phone lines. So I'm not selling stuff, again, I'm on the line. So, and then our new smart notification product is out there. We build a lot of stuff. Some stuff people like, some, okay, that was okay. And then, which we're striving for, to get things where people instantly say across our customer base, we need to use this and this helps. And that smart notification has been a project we've been working on this year, and the numbers are fantastic. So it's exciting for us because we just kind of walked with the product. We had lots of ideas. I'm designer, our dealers have lots of ideas, but we just wanted to make sure we got the core of it right. So I think there's a really exciting future with these notifications for dealers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin, are all of these features something that comes with the DMS, or is it stuff that dealers have to ask about, or you guys have to inquire if they want it, to be added on to their system? Or is it all there, once you guys roll stuff out?
Yeah, so the things we just talked about are there for our customers. Our customers have options, but at DX1 we're not too big on the tack-on process. some products come in as development goes on over the years, where maybe it's a third party, where we're working to provide a service. So we're usually just, trying to, again, assist the dealer. Our focus is on the DMS and, providing the best service we can from that aspect.
Yeah. And then is there a certain size dealership that's, best served by a DMS, or can it be, the smallest dealerships out there, obviously, to the largest ones and everything in between? Does a DMS serve everybody, equally, or should you be a certain size before you really need one?
Yeah, well, that's the challenge for all of us DMSs. We're not making custom software. None of us are. So what we're really trying to do is find how we can make something, that fits across all these users, which again is always a really big challenge, trying to find that. But we've also taken those feedback from the customers, again, to apply it to our product to find solutions for things like that, configurations, options. And again, I think our bigger thing is not trying to shove our workflow down our dealers' throats, if you want to call it that, meaning this is the only way to do it. And I've had experience with particular DMSs in the past where it's kind of it. The product might be good, but it's not evolving. We release products every month. Again, we're agile. So DX1 is moving with you in the dealership. So again, I think that's one of the big aspects of what we do there.
Yeah, that's great. And, along those lines, you were talking about, what's been new at DX1. And I wanted to dive a little bit even deeper into that because, obviously you guys have a lot coming out. And like I said, it's almost on a monthly basis that you guys are continuing to evolve and update things. So, what are some of those things that you guys are working on now that, you're most excited about dealers kind of wrapping their arms around?
Yeah, well, the continued e-commerce. There's so many aspects that what can happen in e-commerce. Getting an order is just one aspect. Getting it shipped, getting it to your customer, following the tracking. Those are all things we have worked on this year and just released, actually coming up in the next week. And that's really important. Again, as we worked with our dealers trying to understand, especially on the parts and service side, what's the connection between your website and, again, your brick and mortar? I think it's pretty easy with units. Traditionally people go and they look for things to buy, but when it comes to, doing business via this digital platform, that's a really exciting future. So again, our customers can digitally communicate in real time. Again, getting these updates from your customers, there's just such a huge rise in customer satisfaction. So we've taken a big focus again on making sure that we're looking at that and continuing to grow it. There's so many opportunities. Again, I did talk, in particular about listing your in-stock inventory. I mean, that's the ability to have that happening in real time as I'm receiving items in, is very important. And it's not an easy task because, as consumers, we all want to see pictures and we all want to see attributes and we all want to see things, but not all parts have those attributes. There's not a lot on a washer, it's a washer. So, trying to find solutions to continue to, make it look right, make it work right, make it seem normal to the consumer. That's kind of the deep dive we've been focusing on. And, as things start to normalize again, we're seeing OEM promotions, returning to the market, somewhat fiercely. So again, we take a lot of pride in the fact that we're working with, manufacturers to get this updated OEM information. And that is a valuable tool, being able to know, that night what the promotions are without downloading it from a resource or printing out copies, having it smartly attached to your deal. All those things that, again, are kind of if somebody doesn't realize there's a rebate or doesn't do the little things, that's just money out the door. So again, we work really hard on trying to help you keep the money that's easy to keep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it certainly sounds like, DMS is doing all those little things that, it certainly ease your mind a little bit, knowing that you don't necessarily have to worry as much about them yourself. And like you said, it's ultimately about, better customer service and then, the dealership profitability when it really comes down to it. So definitely something that dealers are going to want to know more about and certainly understand what all those features are that are available to them.
Yeah. And, one thing that, over the last 3 years, we've really seen, or I've seen from our side, is dealers are really dealing with staffing issues,
Oh,
finding
certainly.
qualified candidates. And so, I tell dealers all the time, that's what we're working on very hard right now is I want to give you an employee that doesn't go to sleep. It doesn't move. It doesn't go
Yeah.
on vacation. It doesn't change its mind. It doesn't make judgment calls. It does what it's supposed to do, to your point of ease of mind. And again, if you think about the number of people it takes within a dealership to do these tasks, whatever you want to do with those resources are important. I can have this person do something else. I can hire another person. I can, invest more into my business. I can maybe help with wages, whatever it may be. These items can show bottom line differences to the dealers by just turning on features.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not having to hire somebody and design a tool so that we find the right chemicals to make sure that it works all the time. And then it does. And maybe that person moves on. And as a dealer, I'm like, oh man, I'm back to ground zero. We all know, if you've been in a dealership, you know that frustration when you lose a key piece. And so we hope the key piece for our dealerships is DX1.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And like I said, I think the dealers out there that are using that software are certainly benefiting from it. And, Justin, again, you said it's stuff constantly evolving, especially at DX1. You guys have been agile over the years. You mentioned the real-time notifications, the inventory, the e-commerce stuff. Looking ahead 6 months, a year, 2 years, what do you see being that next couple of things, that DMS is going to offer dealers?
Yeah, I think we're focusing on areas, staying with the theme I just talked about. Again, there are some major workflows in a dealership that take up a lot more time than the things we've talked about. Yes, it takes time to call customers. But if you think about things like receiving products all day, small, medium, big size dealership, you asked me earlier, I guess I didn't probably quite answer that directly for you, but maybe I'll kind of revisit that here for you is that, ultimately, I think our software works with whatever size dealership you are. I think what it's about is how you want to run your dealership. Mm-hmm. I'm going to speak in general. I've not just with DX1 worked with very big dealerships. You walk outside and it's kind of chaos. And I've worked with some very small dealerships who are running more impressively than any group I've seen. So I think it's just, understanding how to get the software to work for your business. Again, we talked about that, having a champion in the dealership, somebody that's invested into, taking advantage of all these great features and making sure they're applied, so from that side again, and, when we think things about, again, receiving products, I remember days of getting 200 boxes. When you think about handing every part and punching in every line and every price, there's a lot of room for error and a lot of ripple effects that can cause havoc through a dealership over one small mistake. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in the feature to, again, help take the user out of the process, allow them to do other things, allow the owner to take those resources and put them in places where it's needed. And so things like that, again, continuing to try to automate processes that are typically mistake prone and expensive for the dealership.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense to me. And Justin, with that, we'll wrap up today's episode. So again, we want to thank Justin Quinn from DX1. Thanks so much for the time today. And we want to say thanks to all you guys out there watching. Make sure you're checking out everything that DX1 is offering with their dealer management systems. And make sure you're always checking out Motorcycle and Powersports News for more motorcycle and powersports content. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next episode.